some of this basic listing stuff, okay, and how to fill out the paperwork, how to explain the paperwork, and all of that stuff. So first things first, we're looking at, what you're looking at here is the seller's appointed agency agreement. You guys all saw us go with the buyer's appointed agency agreement. It's similar, but it's not exact. I think what you have to know here is that, number one, the address of the property should be filled out at the top of both pages. Your name and any co-listing, like if you're to co-list with Danielle, Stacia, both you guys should be up here. Both your names should be in a line.
So even if we're on a team, I just found that out. Yeah, even if we're not
Whoever's
like
going to be doing specific assistance to your client. So you might be out of town, and then Danielle takes over or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, you should have them both on there.
Okay.
I would also say whoever's getting paid should probably be on there. Okay. Right?
Yep.
Okay, and then those boxes need to be checked, whether they consent or they don't consent. I think what's important about when they consent, is just tell you guys, is they're consenting for you to show buyers they understand that you might be represented. If you do end up bringing an offer, we still need a dual agency signed by all parties. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. We always need that, whether representing a buyer, or we're representing a buyer and seller together, we need a dual agency signed. When you originally get this signed at the listing, checking those boxes, give you the seller's acknowledging that and giving you permission to show the property to other people. And then there is, if they do have a problem with that, and every now and then you'll run into somebody who does, you'll see point number 8, there was the possibility of separate representation, where the broker could assign somebody, you could find somebody, give them a referral fee, a flat fee, whatever it is you work out with them to appoint, maybe represent the buyer or something like that. You want to add something?
Well, we'll probably go back to having the 2 consents checked, because we have a lot of them coming in with no box checked. And then it's not.
They used to automatically just populate the consent check boxes when the document form came up. They're not doing that right now, and people are missing them because they're used to them just being.
I thought it was being fixed, but this is a form right out of that loop, isn't it? Yeah.
So if you go up second point, point 5, and your name's in there, or they're appointing you as the agent, us as the brokerage, and they're authorizing you to do all the things on behalf of the brokerage that require, fiduciary obligations and things like that. Going back up to the top of the page, page 1 there, page number 1, 2, and 3. It goes over what your duties are to your party, to your listing. It also goes over duties of all parties. It's the same with the buyer brokerage there, where material adverse facts, basically just disclosure, okay, and act with integrity and honesty.
Isn't the admin fee $425?
No, the admin fee is $325, and that's different on this page because it's a seller expense. Now there'll be 3 times of that $325 should be disclosed to your seller. 1 here, 1 on your estimate of proceeds, and I believe it's in the purchase agreement, or no,
Listing
it's
agreement.
in the listing agreement as well. So there's 3 times that $325 fee should be disclosed to your client. Okay.
It's not $425. Sheet maybe?
No.
More a closing, like a settlement.
Yeah.
Like the settlement. Yeah. This is just the admin fee.
Does anybody have any problems explaining this to people? I always go over our 3 different types of representation that might exist during the time of a listing. There's appointed agency, where my broker or myself are representing you, and exclusively you. There's dual agency, the possibility of marketing your home. I could get a sign call, could get a call from our many spots online. I show the home, they want to write the offer. A dual agency form would have to be signed by all parties in order for me to act in that capacity. Explain that real quick. And then there's a possibility that the broker could represent both parties, but us as sub-agents of that broker would represent your interest individually. I know that's a mouthful, but that's the 3 different types of representation, right? A single appointed agency with the broker and yourself represents one party exclusively. Dual agency with the broker and yourself representing both parties, and that needs a dual agency form signed. And then the other one where if I have a listing and Julie comes and shows that she brings a buyer, the broker's technically representing both parties. But us as sub-agents and independent contractors, she'll represent her buyer's interest, and I'll represent my seller's interest. Does that make sense? And then point number 4 goes over that $325. It's a back-end fee. It's a processing fee to help process this this is the sale, right? It goes to help pay for and offset expenses of all the wonderful people that work for
We're
us,
gonna pay Jen.
like Jenny
You know,
and
hey,
your
you stopped
TC,
doing this for free for some
things like that. Yeah, it's a long time ago,
reason.
long time ago. What are we going to next? The next form. Does anybody have questions on this form? Go ahead.
Real quick, for the admin fee, the $325, do they store the documents for sellers the
Yes.
same length of time as they do the buyers? Is it about
Everything's signed, yeah.
4 years?
5.
5, okay.
A minimum of 5.
Minimum of 5.
Okay,
Yeah,
We're at
we're
about
required
7
by
right now.
law to store at least 5, and we're actually
We're at about
talking about
7.
that
We're at
to
about
see.
7 right now, I think.
Well, Dot Loop's only at 5,
Right, but I mean, I think we have documents 2
We
years
do,
prior
yeah.
to that.
and so we're gonna work through with legal on whether or not we should be purging at 5 or going from there.
okay.
Okay. Next form.
Property disclosure.
Okay.
Seller's
now-
disclosure.
First and foremost, I've gone on record, I hate our seller's disclosure. That I just don't, I think there's easier ones out there. But the reason why I preface that is because I think it's easy sometimes for you to get to where you're filling it out for your seller, you're doing a questionnaire. Do not do that,
Ever,
ever.
ever.
Your handwriting should never be on here, okay? Gotta have the address typed on the top. And this box right here is for the people who are exempt from filling this out. So if your seller signs up here, the buyer needs to sign here. There's nothing else that needs to be initialed and signed. They're pointing out that they are one of the parties that are exempt from filling this out. And it says in here what parties are exempt. So if someone's acting as power of attorney, they're exempt from filling this out. If someone is an estate or an executor of the estate, they're exempt from filling this out. If it's a property of four or more dwellings, or does it start 5? Starts at 5. That's considered a commercial property. Commercial properties are exempt from filling out seller's disclosure. Okay? If I was selling it to my brother, where it's an arm's length or transaction or something like that, I'm exempt from filling this out, okay? If it's a foreclosure, the bank's exempt from filling this out. Bare ground, you're exempt from filling this out. Well, who am I missing, Lance? Oh, between joint tenants, a wife selling it to a husband, or maybe a divorce situation, they're exempt from filling this out. So if you ever have any questions on who's exempt, they're all listed right here. So,
So if the property's in a trust, are they exempt?
well, sometimes the person's still alive,
Yes.
and if they've lived there, I would have them fill it out.
Okay,
Okay, disclosure is always better
Yeah.
than non-disclosure.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's another thing on here to just get used to doing. Like if you have a landlord who's selling a land, he's had the property for 15 years, they're not exempt from filling this out, but I would write in here one of the boxes just to protect his butt or her butt would be seller has not lived in the property ever, or seller has not lived in the property for 12 years. Put that in there because that's a disclosure that says to the buyer, hey, listen, I'm disclosing everything I know, but there isn't much I know. I haven't been there, I haven't lived there personally for 12 to 15 years or whatever it's been, okay?
could the tenant fill it out?
No.
No, this is only direct knowledge.
So the best of your
Owner
knowledge
of the
is
property.
Yes.
Yeah, it's,
Best of your knowledge.
yeah, you have to have direct knowledge.
A seller, and how it reads by law, the seller has to disclose any material defect of which they have actual knowledge of that could not be discovered by a reasonable inspection. So when you walk up to a driveway and you see cracks in the driveway, do they need to disclose that? First of all, it might be a material defect. Material defect is something that would affect a buyer's decision to buy or what to buy it at or when to buy it all. But those things are right in front of you. Those things can be discovered by a reasonable inspection, okay? Cracked heat exchange in the furnace they know about, that might not be. Sewer line that they have to clean out every 3 months, that's not something that could be discovered by a reasonable inspection, a visual inspection, okay?
What if someone's selling 5 individual condo units as like a portfolio? Do they do a separate one for each?
Yes.
Or, okay,
You said the sales
so
disclosure.
the 5 is like a 5-plex, that's when you would be,
That's if they're selling, no, if they're selling the whole 5-plex, no. They're selling the whole 5-plex as one purchase,
yes?
no.
That's
There's-
commercial.
If they're
Okay.
selling individual units, yes.
Even though if they're selling them all at the same time, to one individual?
No. If it's one purchase for all 5-plexes, And,
One
Well,
purchase
it's
for
been,
five individual.
They're condos.
Oh.
That's different.
no, then yes.
That's 5 individual
Okay.
ownerships.
Yes,
Yeah.
then yes. Yes. Yep, that's a good question. That's a good question. Coming down here, how you, the common misses here, scroll down a little bit, Beck, if you would. How we fill these out. Basement foundation, has there been known water, other problems? Yes, no, or unknown. The 4 correct answers that you want to instruct your seller to fill out is yes, no, unknown, or not applicable. Those are the 4 answers that they need to answer, okay? Well and pump, you're gonna see a lot of not applicable on your residential homes. Wells have been taken out, most properties for, years ago.
We
Septic
did
tanks,
finally put an NA in there, just so that, we did make that change. because
septic tanks,
I hated it.
you'll have those occasionally. Keep in mind that if we do have a septic tank, you need to inform your seller. There's a DNR inspection with transfers now on septics. They need to be pumped once in the last 3 years and prove it. And then with every transfer, they have to have a DNR report come out and make sure that the septic is up to code with every transfer now, okay? Coming down, this is where people miss.
That one,
Oh yeah, there's a cost there.
big.
To what?
Well, to bring it up to
DNR
code
come out and
will
do that.
vary. To actually come out and inspect, it's just a few $100s, like $300.
Yeah, it depends on if they have to dig to get to it, then it's more.
Gotcha.
If they're doing the full pump inspection, it's more. So it just depends on-
1,500.
Right.
Depending
I'm
on how
doing
much
one right
digging
now
you have to do.
on the land.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you this too, do it as you're moving through the listing possibly, and not necessarily when you get, or if you do get a buyer, do it right away. Because it might take you a while to get somebody out there, and if there is work that needs to be done, you could, depending on the work, it could hold up your closing if you wait till the end, okay? There's all different types of septic systems, right? There's gravity fed, there's ones with grinders and pumps, there's sand filled, there's peat moss systems. If you're close to a Class A water source, you have to have peat moss. That peat moss has to be changed out every 8 to 10 years with a UV light. It gets crazy. So don't wait on those, okay? So up here, this is where everybody messes up, and this is where you need to instruct your sellers. Sewer, any known problems, yes, no. Let's say no. Any known repairs or replacements could be yes. Even though there's no problems now, any known repair, yes. Replace sewer line 2014. See how that goes? Heating system, any known problems? No. Any known repairs, replacements? Yes. New heat exchange 2015. See, they have to disclose the repairs, okay? And then you want to do that all the way down. Any known encroachments, easements, common areas. You'll see that with condos and townhomes, right? A lot of people have pools and things like that. With condos, there's common areas like hallways and washer and dryer rooms and things like that. Features in common, share with adjoining landowners. We share a lot of fences. Some of them have a shared driveway, right? So.
Also with the easements, you have an awareness of utility easements and water easements. There's a lot of
Sewer
different
easements.
easements that are part of that. We had one where they didn't feel it necessary to disclose that had a gas line easement running through the back corner of the property. And basically it was like, oh yeah, no big deal, except you can't fence over that. You couldn't have a barbecue fire pit in your backyard because it was within a certain distance to that gas line. It was against the rules to have a fire pit on their deck or in their back of their house. And then when it was brought up and the people were like, well, we're not gonna buy it.
Yeah.
And they started going, yes, you are, because that's
No. It's a
acceptable.
material defect, something that would affect my decision of whether I buy it or what to buy it for. That would be one.
Well, there was a discussion about
There's
that.
discussion about that. Would love to hear that played out. But the sewer line, also the storm sewer, you can only build a structure so many feet from that, right? And sometimes these lots, when they go, I got so much room between my neighbor and I. Yeah, there's a reason. And there's a damn 6-foot sewer line or storm sewer that runs right in the middle of you, right?
So I kind of have a thing.
Found that out first lot I bought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So far,
Absolutely.
cost me.
A friend of mine just reached
Well,
out
that way.
over the weekend and said that the city is gonna replace some storm thing. I don't know, I talked to Linda because she's our Ward 2 city councilwoman, and it runs right along his garage, or right under it. So he was like, well, should the sellers have disclosed that there was something It's from the
You're
20s.
not supposed to build on there, but something like that a long time ago that might have got overlooked
Right.
when the inspections in the city wasn't on it like they used to be, you know?
And so
Or
now
like
he's
they are
like,
now.
well, are they gonna have to tear down my garage? Am I gonna lose my garage? Because they're gonna replace it, so they're gonna put new. So then he's all flustered.
Yeah,
I-
there's a lot of questions. about
I
that.
would think that if they built the garage and the city okayed the permits and everything, that there might be some help there. If he did it without the city's blessing and permit, I would think that's all.
Are you talking to Boyd here?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he
this
did not
isn't
build the
Joaquin.
garage. They just moved into this house less than a year ago.
You gotta, yeah,
So.
you gotta know some people with some vowels on their name.
To let someone know when they're buying land, or they have to go so many feet away from the
Yeah,
easement?
well, it's not
Because
the
my buddy
seller's
just bought
job
it.
to.
Okay.
Zoning-
Right, that's what he-
Zoning classification, I know, Polk County assessors are really good at listing the zoning. Don't put anything in here, or have put anything in there unless they know, okay? If they don't know what it is, just, put unknown. That's what that, are you related to the listing agent? Yes, no, if so, how? There's also,
And then sellers.
can we get back to training, please?
Would you please?
Covenants, if you, like, if you're gonna list a condo or townhome where it has covenants, or even, a newer, they all have covenants, and say, attach those like you would to your .loop file, so Jenny can upload them in the MLS, okay? Are you related to the listing agent? Yes, no, or no, or no, yes, no. There is actually a relationship form too that's outside of this, okay? Whether it's, which you should have. It's also a form that shows your interest. If you were selling one of your own properties, Alan, there's a form that just discloses, yes, I'm the seller and I'm a licensed agent, okay? A lot of people are just putting them on here or putting them in the MLS. No, we want the form signed, okay? We don't want, okay?
Yes, no, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming down
It's called
to,
a familial
It
relationship.
can go on the purchase agreement as well.
they go on the first screen.
Well, yeah, like on the back, there's that other provisions. If you put it there, then you don't need that other
Okay.
disclosure.
That's good to
But
know.
if you don't put on the PA, then I'm gonna ask for the other one. It
Okay.
means
One or the other. Because I seem to get flagged on everything with Jenny, and I just overdo it now. But that's why we have her here, so make sure she tells me when I'm wrong. Come on down. This is where obviously, if you don't have your cheaters, this gets tough. What's staying? Included, working, yes, no. I think it's important to go over with your sellers if they're planning on leaving the refrigerator, or leaving the kitchen one, or leaving the green one in the basement. You may have that conversation, because all of a sudden find a walk through green ones in the basement where the stainless steel one was, and we got some unhappy buyers. Well, I told you I was leaving the fridge, I didn't tell you which one, So go through all this. Is it included in the sale? Is it good working order? Yes, no, or unknown? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We don't need to go through anything here unless there's something that's confusing you guys.
The only thing that's confusing, scroll back up just a touch, down just a, yeah. there you
Just
go.
a hair.
This, when it says keys and locks here,
It's an LP.
and it says keys and locks over here, if people get confused with that, this is the LP tank, keys and lock. That's why there's two locks and keys in there. People are like, well, I already said that.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
That needs to be like indented, just. to-
Well, yeah,
And
there's a lot of changes.
This is
we
like,
could-
hey, what's included? Like, is the city sewer system included? No, we're taking that with us. It's kind of,
Yes, actually, when this form was redone, they put those check boxes and they're not supposed to be there.
so go on up
They
here.
included boxes, they'll go.
Point number 3 is the non-mandatory clause, the part not non-mandatory. So you don't technically have to fill out the non-mandatory section of this. Scroll on up, back. There you go. Starts here, then ends with the last page. I always have it filled out though, for the most part. I don't want people to feel like I'm hiding anything. And when they go get insurance on their house, they're gonna find this if there is. So it's best to know that up front, right? If you have a claim over 5,000 or more, it's gonna red flag when they go to get their insurance. But hey, what's this hail damage on here? You didn't disclose this. Well, yeah, we had hail damage, and that's why we replaced the roof in 2013. And then it also asks if there's, you kind of had some fun with this. Hey, did you bury your ex-wife in the backyard? Type thing. Neighborhood or stigmatizing conditions. I always, has anybody ever been, brutally murdered here or something like that? But that's kind of a gray area.
That's not stigmatizing.
What would you classify that as stigmatizing?
you know, if like in farms, if you have a farm and somebody, and they're building a you know, hog confinement next door, that's stigmatizing. It comes up all the time with somebody, you know, committed suicide in the garage. And it's like, do you have to say that? No, you don't. That's not a stigmatizing disclosable item. What I tell our agents every time at every class, I tell them is like, would you want to know? If you think you'd want to know, then I'd certainly be talking to the seller about it. Like, you know, we probably should put something on here, but you know, it's hard to say. It's like, did somebody die in the house? Well, was the house built before 1960? Because if it was, somebody died there. That's just how it used to be.
It's going back to that too, because hospice
now
and
it's going
stuff.
back.
So from like 1980 really to, I would say, 20 years ago.
In interviews with buyers, I know this is seller class, but in an interview with a buyer, you need to be talking about some of those things that's going to affect them. You know, if that's a part of a religion or a belief system that they have, then be aware of that, because that's pretty common.
Right. Okay. Then there's a couple places to fill in here. That's where I put sellers never live in the property, or have them put that in there. That's a good disclaimer, okay? Or sellers only own the property for 3 months if it's a flip or something. I don't know, you haven't been there very long, you know, that's okay. Own the property since such and such date, Shannon, come on in. And then, of course, seller. So, this is by far and away takes the most time during the listing paperwork. You get through this, everything else is cream cheese. All right, moving on to the next form. Lead-based paint disclosure, I think.
Real quick, on the disclosure, even if something is listed on the listing agreement or the listing description, for example, items included, microwave, dishwasher, blah, 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 but then on the disclosure, they've checked no on the dishwasher. The disclosure is the ruling document, correct?
The purchase agreement is the
Purchase agreement is the ruling, and then prior to that would be seller's disclosure, and then before that is
they're offering the washer and dryer, everything at the price they're offering. You go in and negotiate something else, those items need to be on the addendum. I recommend putting them on an addendum if it's being financed. It's cash, go ahead and put them on the purchase agreement. Why we put them on the addendum? Because the lender does not want to have the appraiser assign value to them. So I told Jeff this earlier, and we, you know, kind of trained you guys that way. He messed up, put it on the purchase agreement. Here we are 3 days before closing, changing it, putting there's no value and all that stuff.
So
Just put it on an addendum.
Put it in the purchase agreement and put the dash at no additional value. So I should be doing it in.
I just do it on the addendum just to avoid an underwriter and an appraiser seeing it and assigning weight to those. They don't want it. They don't want the removable items to be valued. They want to know what the house and the land appraises for. So I got a lot of luck just having an addendum.
if you want to be totally legal, technically legal by the book, then write a bill of sale. That's how,
Which we do have.
That's how you do it legal.
I believe. We can do it for like $1 or no cash, no value.
That's how you do it completely legal. Because if there's an agreement outside the closing, at the closing table, they actually ask, is there agreements between buyer and seller that are not part of the closing?
Part of closing.
They have to lie.
I also put, curtains, make sure you identify curtains and blinds and things like that. That way don't leave anything up to assumptions. So if they're offering it and all of a sudden it's not there because you didn't put it in, the purchase agreement is what's going to take reign, okay, in the addendums.
So I have a sale going on right now, which I was thinking of doing an addendum to purchase agreement. The agent said there's a couple items in the garage that are not working, like the treadmill and the deep freeze. And she said the seller will remove that from the house before we close. There's also a working extra dryer and a fridge. She said they were going to leave for us. I was thinking of adding that in the addendum and get it signed, just like, in case they don't remove stuff, but they said they were going to. Would you do that?
Yeah, and again, we have this problem a lot, and the purchase agreement clearly identifies what is part of real estate and what is not. And it says in there, anything not agreed to, like the appliances and curtains, and it's not part of real estate, needs to be removed from the property. But you do have, in the same way that the property and the purchase agreement have that it's supposed to be held in the same condition as it was, buildings and grounds. And you get there, I know Jeff had a problem with this last week, they did a final walkthrough and a window's broke. And then the seller's telling, well, that must have been for your final walkthrough, like, we just got here, and it's broke from the inside,
Yeah.
and then you get pushback from the listing agent, you're like, listen, 0.6A of the purchase agreement or whatever it is, go ahead and just take a gander at that and call me back. You're a breach of contract is what I'm
By the
basically telling you.
way, you're actually making a change to the purchase agreement.
So it would
use an amendment.
Amendment,
So, okay, lead-based paint here. The seller, there's the first two questions is here for the seller. Do they have knowledge of lead-based paint in the home, or they have no knowledge of lead-based paint in the home? Pretty easy to do, right? Check. And then the last one is whether they've had it tested and have a report to produce, or they haven't. Check one of the boxes, have them check one of the boxes, and initial, have them an initial, then go down the bottom here, and they sign and date, and you sign and date.
Yeah,
Okay?
your initial. Don't forget agent initial.
Yeah, don't forget the agent initial up there.
Because then Jenny's gonna call you,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
So,
I'm sorry your commission isn't being paid.
yeah, this is pretty easy. Most people do not know whether they have lead-based paint. Most people don't have reports to it. What happens if you see lead-based paint, you know it's lead? You know it is, you know what it looks like. I mean, the fact they have no
Did you
knowledge of
test
it.
it?
No,
Well, then you don't.
then you don't know for sure. Okay, that's what I thought too, but I want to make sure.
No, I know lead-based paint. You get
Yeah.
that fun cracking that's
Yeah.
in there and stuff. It's like, that's lead-based paint.
So,
But the repair, just so you know, the repair for most lead-based paint issues
to the buyer's part.
is to paint it.
There you go.
You cover it.
Right here, guys, I've been getting these back from buyer's agents outside of our company, and they're forgetting to check these boxes.
Yeah.
They're having them initial right, but they're not checking the boxes, so when you're doing your paperwork and turning them in, of course, you'll get something back from Jenny. But their initial, they received copies of any information listed below, above, there were no reports, that they've received a brochure on how to protect your family. Now, remember, you guys are doing this on the buying side too. The brochure's in .loop, just add it to the loop and share it with them. And then you're in complete compliance. They can't say they didn't receive it, right? And then they have to check one of the boxes. Either they want to receive a 10-day opportunity to do a test, or they waive their opportunity. Now, I'll tell you this, for rental purposes, any of you guys dealing with rentals, they won't allow the chemical that the inspector can sometimes bring on there and tell you if it's lead or not. You actually have to have it x-rayed. They look through all the layers, okay? And we dealt with this on that one house. If there's lead present, either one, you have to sand everything down to bare wood. There can't be a fleck of paint on it. And the city has to come back and inspect it. Then you can paint it. Otherwise, you can have them wrap it, and it's just the chewable surfaces. The chewable surfaces, which is, what would you call it?
Windowsills.
Windowsills, believe it or not, windowsills and stair treads are both considered, because they're easy to
Yep.
chew on.
So I have a guy, he does the x-ray, and then coincidentally, he puts in the caps too, and he'll just overdo it. He'll just go right over them, it's pretty slick. So, but, yeah, you're gonna have them mark one or the other, okay?
And if you do this online, they're not radio buttons, so you just check one. We've had an issue where they've checked two,
Okay,
so we switched this to
You can
radio
only do
buttons,
one,
so it's
okay.
either one or the other.
all right, this was pretty easy, let's get to the next one. The next form, I'm sorry. Radon, this is something you might want to share with your seller during the listing period because it's such a hot button. And it kind of prepares them that someone might be, when they do their inspection, we have a lot of people testing for radon. If you haven't had that conversation with them, it can come up as a surprise. A lot of agents are putting in their marketing report, hey, listen, this is where Auburn home, we're not, you can inspect for radon, but we're not mitigating, okay? That does not relieve your seller from responsibility should someone test and tell you you're at a 22, you gotta disclose that to everybody else going forward, okay? We gotta change the seller's disclosure. Does that make sense? And that goes through with anything else, what these guys fill out. And all of a sudden, there's some pump fails and we have water in the basement, and this needs to change. The seller's disclosure needs to change, okay?
So when you see that
the buyer can test for radon for their own knowledge, but seller will not mitigate and does not want to see results.
That's not enough.
There's
No.
no way they can say, I
No.
don't wanna know.
Yeah.
That's,
Cause I see it all the time.
I see it all the time
Yeah,
too.
you still see it
I
all
see
the time. it doesn't
It's
work.
the ostrich in the sand.
They're like,
yeah,
sand
okay,
approach.
You're
Yeah.
still required to
It's,
just test
it's
this.
not gonna happen, and typically, someone's gonna put a property inspection form in front of you and say, mitigate, radon came in at .22, ask them to mitigate through professional mitigation system. Now, all of a sudden, you know.
So, and I've dealt with issues where that were mold and then the deal falls through because of those issues. And the seller's agent does not, they don't ever update any of the material.
Well, there's the right way to do things, and you can't police everybody, right? There's a right way to do things, there's a wrong way to do things. You know, we're gonna do things right around here, because we're gonna stay out of court, we're gonna advise our sellers and our buyers the right way. And everybody else that does things the other way, eventually it will catch up to them, believe me.
And you need to be honest with your sellers too, is because once you have knowledge, you are now required by law to disclose it. So they can't can't tell you, don't tell anybody. It's like, look, I really want to work with you, but I'm not giving my license up for your listing. It's not gonna happen.
There's a softer approach to that too. You just say, listen, by law, I am bound by law to disclose any material defects, just like you are. So I have to disclose that going forward, okay? So,
Who requests radon test?
fire
Buyer usually, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Usually.
Yeah.
Listing safety form, Lance, you take away on this. I don't use this as much as I should, sorry.
Well, there's, number one, for anybody in here, there's absolutely no reason not to use this. Absolutely no reason. What it says is that you are asking as the seller that any buyer that comes into your property has been identified. And by identified, that means that the agent knows who they are, has met them before, has identified them as far as meeting and making sure what's going on with them. They know that person that they're bringing into that property. You are assisting those showing agents to be safe in your property. You're saying, look, if somebody calls and says, I saw a sign in the yard, I want to meet you there in 20 minutes to look at the property, and it happens to be vacant, you know, if number one, if you're not saying no, something's seriously, but this part says that the seller says no. That if you haven't taken the time to identify that buyer, don't bring them.
Is there a certain, like, you talking like copying their license and stuff? How are you gonna identify them?
Yes, you can
Okay.
meet them. What I'd always done, when I was.
A spool sample? What would you-
Yeah, when I was with,
Is this for people that ain't being represented by a agent? Is this the type of people you're talking about, or what?
I'm talking about somebody calls you up and says, hey, can you show me this house?
Just a random.
You don't know.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And
Okay, that's
you
what I'm saying.
and you say, yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I
And
got
that's just wrong. Absolutely, I don't care who you are, male, female, you know, black belt in karate, gun carrying, whatever. Do not do that, period. There's no excuse for it, none.
See, we get away, we've had one big tragedy here everybody knows about. But this happens in other big cities, and it's happened to men, it's happened to women.
No, heck yeah.
It happens, and just don't let you be the one that causes everybody else to change their ways because something bad happened to you. Take the necessary precautions. Meet somebody at a public place, a Starbucks first. Say, hey, you know, there's a Starbucks a block from there, let's meet there, let's get to know each other for 5-10 minutes. Get to know them. And by all means, trust your gut. Trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, smell right, just get out of there. No sale is worth your life, right? So,
It's not worth it.
so just,
You can do, I mean, if you want to make sure that, and be very overt about it. If you're meeting somebody and you're like, okay, now I'm gonna have a copy of her license and that kind of stuff. And when you make sure you're there early, when they pull in, you take a picture of their car and their license plate, first thing, before you ever say hi to them. You take a picture of their car and their license plate, and then you go around and say, can you give me a copy of your driver's license? And when they do, you take a picture of that, you hand it back and say, just a minute, I need to email this information to my broker.
Yeah, and you can sit down
And
for
if
10 or
you need-
15 minutes
if you
and
need a
talk with them,
broker-
build a little rapport, and then go through all that. It might feel a little standoffish at first while someone's taking a picture. I think if you sit down and tell them how you work a little bit, about your process, your systems, and say, hey, and then this is the final step before we go. I need to send some information to my broker just to make sure that this seller has asked for all properties, people coming through to be identified. So
Yeah, don't play with this. Seriously, do not play with it.
let's go on to the next issue.
I try to use the pre-approval as a.
Oh, yeah,
deal
yeah, if you
as
get a
well, like, hey,
pre-approval.
are you
Or you get a
pre-approved? Do you know how this
referral.
process starts?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I try to do.
But
Mortgage.
it strikes me extremely strange, and that's why Matt had me talk about this, because I'm so passionate about it, that you can't drive a car out of a car lot, you can't look at an apartment in an apartment complex without showing your license. Yet we think we're intrusive when we ask for identification to see somebody's house.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. I'm gonna take somebody into these people's house, they're away, and I'm gonna take a complete stranger into their house.
So moving on here, the mortgage authorization. We have this form signed because it just is that. The sellers are giving us our back end permission to fax these things or email these things into the lenders to get a payoff quote for the date of closing. And there's a per diem when they send that payout quote. It's a daily charge, okay? So we can calculate one way or the other if it goes early or goes a little late. Here's the thing here. When you're sitting down with your sellers, they know about the first mortgage, ask them about the second one. Do you have any other second that would constitute as a meeting as a property? No, I just have this home equity line. Yeah, okay.
I don't know anything on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's another thing, so you gotta, people feel like it's not actually a mortgage, it's some kind of, it is, okay? We need the mortgage company, we need the account number. We have a pretty good list of all the phone numbers. If you have them, put them in. If not, it's not completely necessary.
Like a small bank or something.
Yeah, they're pretty good at nailing them down. Same thing, they can add a HELOC company. People for some reason don't feel like that's like a second mortgage. But put that on there. And then coming down below, we need the signature of both people and their social security numbers. Okay?
Can I say something real quick? If
Yeah.
they know for sure there's absolutely no mortgage, mark no first mortgage or write no mortgage or something,
Yeah.
still submit it. Because if this is not in the loop, nor is it, if it's filled out, I'm gonna still ask for it,
Right.
so.
Do you get that, guys? They have no mortgage, it's cash owned. Just check no mortgage or write no mortgage in and still submit it. That way she knows you didn't miss it. And, okay? And then,
Yeah, it says no first mortgage up there. If you don't have a mortgage, check the box.
And then it doesn't need to be signed either.
Yeah,
bless you.
You still need social security number if I don't have a
Well,
mortgage?
we will but you can put on the sales worksheet when you get on. I'm gonna ask
We're
for
gonna
one.
get to that. We're gonna get to that. This is pretty easy though. These can be e-signed, these can be hard signed, whatever.
There are some lenders that will not take
The e-sign.
signatures on
Yeah.
those, but the
You will-
URTC will let you know.
Yeah, the majority of them do, and you'll run into the ones that every now and then that won't. Estimate of proceeds, which y'all came for, right? So first of all, go to the top there, Ben. You have to put an estimated close date in here, because that's what you're prorating your taxes to. All right? Now keep in mind, this is an estimate, and you sell it to your seller that way. Then I'm probably gonna be off one way or another, just a few $100s. You're really good at this, you shouldn't be off any more than that. All right? Sales price, right? Can you fill this out?
I have one that we can.
This does the automatic math for you. One thing I don't like about it right now, and we'll get it changed, is when you put in the mortgage, it types in and fills out the other side too.
It was just 2 boxes and that's done.
Okay, it's already done.
They already
Okay,
took care of that, yeah.
That's quick.
It was just a couple of boxes. that
We're
did
trying
that.
to serve.
It's about damn time, Lance.
Yeah, I know.
So, wow, a lot of straight thousands there. That's,
Yeah.
Makes it easy.
yeah.
That's so I can add.
Yeah, why don't we go
Do you want to go through
200,
it?
200,000,
Let's do the other side.
let's go 200,000, oh, even a million? Let's do a
I
sales
would-
price of 200.
Yeah, I'm doing the other side.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Sure.
I mean, just instead of having to go.
So we
through-
have two sides here because one's meant for the listing, you know, best case scenario, we get a full price offer, no closing costs, no home warranty. The second side you can fill out once you actually get the offer so they can see it. Maybe it's not quite full price, maybe they're asking closing costs, right?
Okay.
You can also do a range, like show the pricing, the difference if you're saying, hey,
Yeah,
you know, price it at this or this, here's a couple of scenarios. Because a lot of times they think it's a monster difference and you can, you know, show or if
Right.
you've got a different scenario.
the one thing I would say is once this is e-signed, just if you're gonna do one, just queue up another estimate of proceeds. Because once you start filling this out, it's gonna prompt to erase their signatures. And we'd rather have their signatures on the estimate of proceeds, the original one, so we can go back and say, the only way I'm really ever off on these is if they told me the wrong payoff, right? So, mortgage contract balance, I'll say this, a lot of people will hand you their mortgage statement and it'll say balance 89,000. That's not their payoff, okay? Their payoff's gonna be about another month and a half's worth of interest, So let's say this 89,000 and their payment's $1,000 a month. I would think they're, you know, if you got in there for, you know, like $90,500, you're gonna be pretty damn close, okay? So, no, go 90,500. Second mortgage, let's say there is no second mortgage. Taxes. This is where it can get crazy. And or get a little confusing. I don't want to say crazy. We're coming up on March closings now. And March, we're getting ready to pay the taxes out. What you need to tell them and say we're closing, let's make this closing for the end of March, March 30th to be exact. We're gonna figure out, we're gonna go ahead and put 6 months of taxes to pay current in here. And then we're gonna prorate for 9 months for a total of 15 months. That's what they're gonna actually get charged. And they're gonna say, well, wait a second, you know, I'm gonna pay my taxes, it's in my escrow account. The escrow account, their balance, 6 months of that should be in there, plus whatever's in there for their insurance, will come back to them after closing. All right, the mortgage company pays their payoff, and then 2-3 weeks later, they're gonna get a separate check in the mail. Okay, it's important to know that, especially this time of year, because in fact, 15 months of taxes, right? So it's $200,000 home, probably about $4,400 a year in taxes. Somebody give me 6 months of that, and someone give me nine months of that. Anybody?
2,200. That's
6 months.
6 months, there you go.
3,300 for 9 months.
3,300? Jeez, Frank.
We said it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Frank copied us.
Frank's got it.
No, it wasn't difficult.
Is he right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2,200 for 6 months? And you said 3,300 for 9 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some more difficult.
Abstracting, anybody want to offer their opinion on what you put in for abstracting?
300.
300?
900 and
About
85.
8.
$500 is the answer. Now listen, if they just refinanced 3 years ago and the abstract was updated, it could be $300, right? If you hadn't sold the house for 20 years, it's gonna be fine. The farther they have to go back to search, the more your abstracting is gonna be.
Or how many court cases there were, divorces,
Right.
everything.
So I've seen these as high as 600. You don't see them unless they're rebuilt. You don't see too much more than that, okay? If you do need one rebuilt, give me a call. We'll try to help you. We'll try to help you negotiate that. I'll try to help you. Okay. Revenue stamps. Give me the revenue stamps. Anybody?
$1.60 per thousand.
Right, with the first $500 is actually forgivable. So if there's a, you know, $200,000 purchase, I never add that in there though, just because you're talking about 80 cents here. So if anything, be a little high, but I want you to know the exact, okay? So if we were figuring this out exactly, you would take $500 off the 200,000. So, but for purposes of how I would want you to fill this out, we know $1.60 per, you know, is $160 per 100, so it has to be 320 for 200, right? Special assessments, we won't know unless they know. We won't know until a title opinion is rendered, right? Special assessment might be a sidewalk repair the city did, or something like that. When we have a title opinion, we'll know that. Buyer's loan and costs, now if you wanna figure in, I always show my sellers the best case scenario. You know,
And I show them worse.
you show them more.
I do.
I put 2,500 in there.
Yep.
Just cause you usually,
You do, you see a lot.
that's what happens
See a lot.
usually.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm in the,
if I'm gonna write it, I'm
I'm
gonna
in
try
the-
to put
I'm-
closing costs.
I'm in, you know, I'm trying to win them now. You know? I'm-
Anything to get the list.
Yeah, right.
I'll say I'm sorry later.
Attorney fees, I actually just put what's in here, 75, I put $53 for the termite inspection, even though it's actually $49 and some cents. I just put 53 in here. Remember, they'll never be mad at you if they get a couple $100 more than you tell them to. They're gonna be pissed if they end up worse than you told
I have
them,
a question. For
That's
the attorney affidavits, would that be like one for the ex-wife and then one for child support?
I put 75,
Oh, you did.
75,
Well,
So like when would
the
you have more than
ex-wife would
one?
only sign a child support affidavit. There would,
Okay,
unless you're paying child support and alimony,
okay.
you
Now,
know. But then the other one would be like name affidavit,
Oh, okay.
you know. So each
HOA.
one of those, yeah, HOA affidavit, each one of those has to be filed in $75.
septic inspection, if you have a septic, put $500 in there. You know, and again, it's key just tell them this is an estimate, okay? We don't know how hard it's gonna be to get in there. The settlement fee of $325,
Would you put for sub pump?
nothing.
Okay.
People inspect those?
Well, and different areas, rural areas.
Homework, I mean, you can put something if you want to, I leave it blank on the, I know, I'm courting them right now, I'm not trying to tell them all, you know? I'm in the courting phase of the relationship.
I always.
I'm telling them everything they want to hear, right?
What is it?
580.
And then of course,
569, isn't it?
now, if you really want, if,
578.
580, okay, if you want to do that. Again, it's just whatever you want to do for your own business. Other, if you really want to be, I always add $100 in there, I would say always, but a lot of them I do. If that's for a courier, or sometimes they need a wire that goes out to pay stuff, so I usually handle that. And of course, professional fees, the commission that you're charging. Let's say we do this for 7%, that'd be 14 grand. Boom.
Matt knows 7% of anyone.
That's all I can figure out. So after their payoff and everything, so their payoffs, right, this is a check they should have after the $200,000 sale, right? Make sense?
The comment section is really nice to discuss some things like, you know, if it's closing on this day, you'll get the earnest money back or the escrow money back. You know, you can estimate that at, you know, 6-month amount that comes back. One thing about this date on there, if in fact you are closing at the very end of March from like the 15th on, have them call and cancel the auto pay of their taxes by the lender, because they send those out in tapes anywhere from the 15th to the 30th. And so what happens is it's double paid then. And so just have them say, just call the lender and say, do not pay the taxes on tape because I have the house sold and taxes will be paid at closing, and just hold for a refund. It saves a lot of time.
Saves a lot of time. And eventually your sellers will get their money back too. It's another reason we want to have their forwarding address and things like that. So get them to sign it. Again, it's an estimate. I remember the first person that trained me to do it, they told me to circle the estimate. You know, I don't know.
Always circle the top estimate.
Well,
Always.
you're on a digital thing here, you can't always do that, but I mean, that was the way to reinforce that this is not an actual, this is an estimate, okay? But your estimates should be really good. So if we're closing at the end of April, how many taxes should we have calculated for proration? On a proration?
What was your question? Sorry.
If we're closing the end of April, what should the proration estimate be?
16.
Remember, just paid in March.
51.
12 plus 1. That's me.
The answer is 10. Remember, March was 9, And then we paid 6 months in March. That was for the total of 15. April goes down to 10, May 11, June 12, July 13, August 14, September 15, October
So it went
10.
from 15
And
to
October,
10?
remember, October is the 10th month of the year and it goes right up. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15th in March, and back down 10 again.
Yeah, just in your mind, when you pay taxes twice a year, which by far the majority of people do, but always ask, that you go from 15 months owed to 9 months, and then back up to 15, and back down to 9. That's how it works. So in your mind, you think about everything, it's just like, when is it paid? How far are you from that date? If it's March 30th and you paid and it's April, the end of April, it's 9 plus 1.
Well, yeah, 9, but remember, there's 9 months in the proration of April, then there's the 1 month owed, so I just put 10 months in there. But if you remember, March is 15th and September is 15th, and it starts at 10 and goes up from there until it's 15 and then back down to 10, you'll always be right, okay? If you want to do it perfect, in April, you'd have 1 month to pay it current and 9 months on proration. Okay, you're inevitably gonna have, that's 10 months, in case you wonder. Why you look at me like that's not right?
Because it's all proration at that point.
No, you still have the one, because you paid in March, you still have the extra month. It's 10 months in April.
It's 10 months proration.
10 months proration, okay. 10 months you're good. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
So I didn't mean to look at your
10,
money, but until the latter part of August.
I
you
always
don't know
put
how much is
it, I always
owed
put it in all of the proration until we get to March and September, then I'll put the 6 months in there.
I just emailed my TC.
Do what?
I said, I just emailed my TC.
That's okay too.
That's okay too.
I'm
Okay,
like, then I don't have to.
let's
worry
move
if
on
I
to the
did
next
it.
one.
You don't have to learn this about it.
She gives me a nice salary. I have-
All right. So, just like in the buyer's class, when I say, hey, all of this is disclosures up until the purchase agreement, the same thing here. We have a 1-page contract, that's it. Everything else they've signed up to this point is a disclosure. Okay, seller's disclosure, seller appointed agency, all that is disclosures, okay? This is the only part of the listing is, that's the contract. It's very short, very sweet. One thing I want to ask you, Lance, because I don't really know, is entered into blank Iowa. Do I, if they live in Prohl and I'm selling a home in Urbandale, does that should say Urbandale, Iowa or Prohl?
Is wherever you are signing.
Whoever the principal signing.
Yeah, wherever you're signing it is where it.
Yeah, but we're in a
entered
digital
in.
system right now, so we're not always face to face. If they're in Prohl, should that say Prohl, Iowa?
Well, it should.
Okay.
Most people would put Urbandale because it's in Urbandale, but you're entering into it. It's the location and date of where you're entering that.
Now that people are on their smartphone signing these things, and God knows where they're at when they're signing them, should we just put the city of the listing, you think?
Either way is going to be fine.
Okay.
Legally, it's where they're at.
Okay. So, and for this, let's say entered in Urbandale, Iowa, of course, you'll have a little calendar thing that you can click here. This is the county, real estate located in blank county, Des Moines, Urbandale, Iowa, locally known as the hard address. Legal description, you can copy and paste right off the assessor's page. And then here's what we're offering the home for, right?
Write it out.
Yeah, there's 2 boxes. There's nothing wrong with putting, the way it's designed is like your checks where you write it out and then put the number in. That's why it's like that.
So this is the commission, whatever you're gonna charge them here, with the minimum commission of blank and blank. If you have a variable rate commission on that, that's where we're gonna list it for such and such, but if I bring the buyer, it might go to another number, that's up to you, but it should be in writing, okay, or you're gonna get burnt on occasion.
If it's not on the MLS, then that's on your sheet. If it's on your sales worksheet or your listing data, check it on the listing data, because if it's not on the MLS, you're illegal. If you've got an agreement to charge less.
Okay. So reserve items, this is a great chance to talk to your seller about what is normally considered part of real estate. Then all of a sudden, that's when they tell you the kids' curtains matches bedspread and we're taking the curtains. Okay, this is when they tell you the dining room chandelier came from their great grandmother's house and we're taking that with us. Now I have my own thought on that. I would say, hey, let's get rid of the chandelier, let's put something in there that right now.
Right.
That way they don't see it, they don't want it, right? But those things are typically part of real estate. And this is the conversation to have with them. That shed, you can take things that are part of real estate as long as you reserve it. And everybody's in the know. Okay, now here's the thing. Reserved items here, this is what happens. You put the reserved items here, who sees this? Does the buyer's agent and the buyer's broker see our listing agreement? So it better be on the seller's disclosure, better be on the addendum of the purchase agreement. This is nice to put this stuff in here. Maybe even a reserve buyer. Would you put that reserve item in a reserve item?
Well, it's somewhere on there in the notes section, probably is
Okay.
where I put it. But
So every now and then you go to a listing thing and he's gonna say, well, I wanna see if my neighbor's kid's gonna buy this house. And you can say, hey, you can pitch and say, listen, we can reserve them as a buyer. If you wanna put them down as a reserve buyer, and even if you want me to facilitate the sale, I'll do it for X and X amount of dollars since you brought the buyer. But
one of the things that to make your life easier is put a date on that they're reserved for this amount of time.
I like that.
So
yeah.
you don't spend 3 months marketing a property and holding open houses, and you finally get, all right, it's looking really good and like that. And they're like, oh, Johnny decided to go ahead and buy it. It's like, no, you give them, for me,
30
2
days,
weeks.
maybe. Even that's long.
2 weeks for me. If you want to give them 30 days, up to you. But put a date on there so that once that date goes, if that person then wants to buy it, they're your buyer.
There's also might be, hey, they say, hey, we want to list this, but Johnny next door might buy it. You can add him as a reserve buyer. You can also say, hey, if for some reason he buys it in the first 30 days, all I want is a flat $500 for my marketing fee. We'll go ahead and go forward with it. That way you're not out of money. But I do believe that you can use this to try to say, hey, let's don't hold off listing this. Let's do this now, and we can solve this problem years out. Termination and protection. Every contract has to have a termination. Okay. What you put in there is up to your own business. You're more than likely not going to have somebody for a year. A lot of people put a year in there. Dude, you're going to be sick of them just as much as they're sick of you in about 120 days. So, back yourself in a corner if you want to, but if the seller wants to cancel their listing and it's been 6 months and you want us to step in, we're holding you to it, probably not going to happen. Okay.
So you put in 4 months.
I put in four months.
6.
And it's a business decision. There's no right or wrong. Okay. I just feel like if you strain these people out too long, you're setting yourself up for some issues. I put, they do want a lockbox, and I understand. I explained to them security of the lockbox. First of all, you can set hours of operation. I didn't realize you can set them on your own lockboxes.
Oh, yeah.
But typically, you cannot show earlier than 8 a.m. I've been outside at 7:58 before, just waiting.
Yeah,
for 8 o'clock.
you're like,
And you can't show after 10 o'clock, actually, if you don't set your own hours. Nah, I think it's 10. I think it's 10, because you can get in, 10 o'clock at night. So they don't have to worry about any crazy realtor off the rocker sneaking in bed with them at 1 morning.
personal experience.
That's good.
And then they record everybody, right? They record everybody that's been through, and they send me an email and it prompts you for. So
You can send it to your clients.
Yeah, explaining that to your clients that there is security in place with these things is a good thing. Now, marketing. You check in the first box here is saying that you authorize us to cooperate with other brokerages. X and X amount of percentage of what I'm charging you is going to the cooperative broker. Okay.
Option A, right?
That would be up here. Now the second one you can't do, it's licensed only, but you can. That just means anybody from our company can sell it, and that's it. I would be very careful that you don't that you explain to them. That you're not, that if we decide to do that.
So then would it still go on the MLS, but then it's just like filtered to the agents who are with
Yeah, it
Remax
goes on.
Concepts?
As an office exclusive, there's a fee to it. DMAR charges a fee if you do an office exclusive.
How much?
It's like $35.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Why would you
Why
do
would
that?
you?
Why would you?
in
What a-
most cases, well, I realty used to do it all the time.
Real.
Because they get paid better.
Because they were
for
bigger.
selling the house.
At one time, they were
Oh,
bigger
sure.
and they do office exclusive, and then nobody else could do it. they'd make more money, blah, blah, blah.
How's that any benefit to the seller?
It isn't.
Ask the
It-
people that
it-
use Next Gen, because they do the same
Yeah,
thing.
there's rare situation where you want to do office exclusive. Let's say that the lady that's living there has an ex that is a realtor and absolutely does not want that person to ever have a chance to be inside that home. So there are some really outside reasons, but there is no good marketing reason to do that.
Would it still be on third-party sites?
No, no.
I don't believe it.
Oh, yeah.
It goes out.
It would be on Zillow if you're on the MLS, doesn't IDX cross it.
Well, I don't think it.
No, it wouldn't pull that feed. You'd have to add it on
Yeah.
manually.
That
See,
doesn't
and
pull
then,
as
listen,
IDX,
there,
so.
with the shortage of inventory, we have come across, I'm not gonna name any names. There have been, they clearly advertising the listing a week before it came on the market. They have YouTube channels on it, interior photos, comes on the market a week later with no photos. So there are people out there doing that, trying to give their company an extra edge. We use Google Plus as our little extra edge, but no way are we listing homes, having it be cooperative listing, selling it that way to our agents or to our clients, and then holding back on market. So if you do put something on Google Plus, you should have a signed listing agreement, and it should be on within, or at least be on the market within 48 hours of your post. If you do it Friday, it should be on by Monday.
That's if it's identifiable.
Yeah.
If you're putting a picture, it could be. If you're putting an address, yes, for sure. But if you go on and say, look, I've got a 3-bedroom ranch coming up, in Fairmont Park on the east side, I think it's going to be about 160. That's okay. You can kind of like, hey, I got a buyer coming that direction. Let's work together on that as time goes. But if there's any danger of ever having the public see it, from the second the public can see it, you have 48 hours, period. And if you don't have a listing prior to that, you're in trouble.
So keep in mind that, Google Plus, we do have a thing for our pocket listings. But I think there's a form, which one, that would protect you. I think if you do have a pocket listing and you're gonna put it out to all of us agents, that's fantastic. That's kind of what Google Plus was originally for. But I think you wanna have some kind of piece of paper that says, should you be the reason, the procuring cause of this sale, that they're going to pay the buying brokerage X and X and you X and X, or just, whole company. Make sure you protected yourself with that. Otherwise, all you're doing is putting it out there and, anything could happen.
Yeah. I have seen that happen where somebody's like, hey, I got, property coming up at such and such. And the next thing you know, another agent called such and such and sold it.
So.
We used to have a Facebook
And you didn't
page
list it yet, so you're out, is that
to
fair?
share upcoming listings in the previous brokerage.
What's that?
Oh,
We used to have a Facebook page, like just the office page, and
Yeah. We have a Google Plus. It's a community hangout. If you're not a part of it, ask to be part of it. We can approve you. And it's just a Google Plus. We all use Google products here. And it's, buyer needs. Hey, I'm looking for this and this and this in this area. Pocket listings and upcoming listings, really. Or just a discussion too. Hey, I'm looking for a plumber that specializes in this, or, some kind of.
Becca, you
This guy.
automatically, when agents come over, you're automatically put on Google Plus.
So this one here is a new thing added to our listing agreements. Some people may not want this to be displayed on the internet. The ML, Zillow and all these places and Trulia and Realtor.com, they all pull from the IDX and MLX. So without having that selected, I don't know why someone wouldn't want that, but if they have their own reasons, it certainly is an option.
If you got $1 million worth of art in your house, you might not want like pictures out there.
And then number 2 is just a disclaimer that they understand that it's a restricted marketing thing, that they, the consumers aren't going to see it on those things. Non-discrimination. I know the way I explain it, it's just we're offering this home up to all people, regardless of race, color, religion, you go all through there, okay? And all of that would apply. Breach of contract. I always say, if I should find a ready, willing, and able buyer, and you don't want to sell your home, we can't force you to, but my company will charge you the commission that we agree to. Can. In my situation, will. But what that means, and a lot of people want to know what that means. A ready, willing, and able buyer means, from a listing standpoint, that they've offered them full price, shown proof that they can finance the property and want to close in a reasonable amount of time. That is ready, willing, and able. And all of a sudden they have a change of heart, that's fine. We can't force them to sign a contract, nor would we. But we can certainly say you owe us what you hired us to do. Okay? Another one, another breach of that contract could be you have that property listed at 200. They accepted $197,000 offer. They changed the terms of ready, willing, and able. They said 197 now is ready, willing, and able. For some reason, they want to back out of that. Obviously, during a contract, that could be a lot of legal ramifications for the buyer, but also us as a listing broker could say, we did what you hired us to do. You accepted that offer. You owe us the commission you promised us that we were. So again, that admin fee is disclosed here now. We had the sales appointed agency. We had it in our estimate of proceeds, and here it is in the listing contract. It's tough to say you didn't know about it. Representation just means you know who's representing you in this contract, and all the different points of representation are our brokerage office.
That part of representation is an agency. That everything you've said is true to the best of your knowledge.
Oh, I've been saying that wrong for about 15 years.
That just says that every item that you filled out, check that you've done, everything that you've done as a seller is true to the best of your knowledge. That's your representation of the property. Agency is a different.
Gotcha. And then material defects, the last thing, right? I acknowledge that I have made, I have legal duties disclosing material defects that would not be discovered by a reasonable inspection. It's the last part there, okay? And then you sign, they sign, a listing agreement subject to, it could be home of choice, right?
That's addendum. That's the addendum that be subject to.
When you put like home of choice addendum in there or no?
That's again where we disagree, because I never, ever put home of choice in a listing agreement.
Ever?
Ever.
Even if they don't know where they're going?
Yep.
What's your
You
theory
better
behind that?
find out.
Because when I'm looking it up and in the listing, it says subject to home of choice, and my people sold their home, have a date and need to move. I don't want to be waiting on somebody else.
Gotcha.
But if you come and talk to me and we're like, yeah, those dates are going to work. These people are ready to go, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, that to me is an obstruction to a buyer coming to talk with you.
Gotcha.
And so I don't put those in.
Gotcha.
I'm like, absolutely.
You hide that a little bit.
We'll put that right in the purchase agreement. You've got this, whatever. But I just personal, I would never hinder.
You think it's a hindrance as a sale
Yeah,
or potential? I can see that.
Absolutely.
I can see that.
That's a hindrance.
The one thing that you'll come across though is that there are sellers who want to list because it's easier and they need to find something. And they're very nervous that they'll sell their home before they had a chance to find something and they'll be put in a situation where they're homeless. Okay. I guess my thought is to get their home on the market, and as soon as they get a buyer, their motivation it turns up. You know what I mean? If you can string out a closing 60 plus days, then you can find something for them. But in those situations where they're they're a little bit scared or timid to accept a purchase agreement, the home of choice thing does work, especially the newer, the more near you are the first time home buyer range. Because those first time home buyers sometimes are in a month, they're living with parents. They can go ahead and shrink that a little bit. I'll tell you the one thing.
Agreement, absolutely. Make sure it's all in writing.
The one thing about most people from an agent standpoint that's bringing somebody to someone who's a home of choice, they just want some affirmation that you are willing to buy something. We're not going to be waiting 45 days only for you to come back and tell us, oh, we haven't found it, we're just not moving. That's a waste of time. So there's a little bit of hesitation I can see from the buyer's agent standpoint, seeing that home of choice. But I've certainly done it. I've done it with a lot of success. Typically, when you get a buyer on something, especially when it's a really good offer, then we can be like, you know what, we can do with our parents. Let's just put a closing date on here.
Yeah.
And let's go find something, string this out. if we can get that price, it'd be worth it to move twice. Their motivation really turns up when their home's sold. Now you got a serious buyer that's gonna look 2-3 times a week till they find something. So
what do you put in that box? I mean, if it's not HOC, I mean, I put subject of sale of home. I mean, that's what I put in there. Disagreement is subject.
It's
to
only
sale
if
of
you
home.
have an addendum to the listing agreement, that's where you would say that.
Okay,
If you're working with a,
so just put in there,
you're
doesn't apply.
working with a bank or you're
And-
working with a relocation company,
All right.
then they have a clause that, they buy the house. Once you get it, they actually buy the house from you and you're transferring. So that's an addendum that it's subject to that.
Okay,
That's
otherwise
specific.
just leave it blank.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
NA in there, doesn't.
yeah, I think the one thing to remember here is whatever is in this purchase agreement is seen between the broker, yourself, and the principal. The buyer's agents and the buyer's brokers, even if you're one of us, you don't get to see this. So anything you put on here as far as reserved items or any addendums in there need to be expressed either on the seller's disclosure or the purchase agreement with the proper addendum.
Well, I hate leaving things blank, I guess.
And I love that. So just put a line through it. Just put it, if you have an empty box, nothing's going in that box, put a line there.
And I've also seen people market home of choice with already found, which in that way, I start to think of motivated seller. But I've seen that done. I don't know.
Oh,
if that's
yeah, and I'm like, and?
Yeah. Well, meaning I need you to buy my house because we've already found the house that we want, kind of gives us the motivation to. So we can see two owners here and the agent's name. A lot of people, the one thing I'll say here is, Alan, you buy homes on your own, right? You're a married man. You can buy the home on your own, but when you sell it, your wife needs to sign. Okay?
Or forge your signature.
Yeah. Perfect. Just not on the warranty.
Card, get it from her.
Yeah.
She's
And listen, here's the thing. Some sellers you might meet, like, let's say Alan, because I'm his agent, he's like, no, my wife, no, I can list it with just Alan's signature. Shoot, he's the only one on the assessors. Jenny certainly isn't gonna know. But once I put married,
Past Jenny, we're
Yeah.
there too.
once I put married on that sales worksheet, I need to have your wife's name, I need to have, all social security numbers, because she will need to sign.
What if I physically remove the ring off my?
Yeah. Yeah, even with the ring. no
You're gonna have to
one's
answer to
married.
her too then.
So I would want the wife to sign this if I could, because I definitely don't want to get to the point where I'm in a warranty deed in front of Alan and all of a sudden his wife doesn't know he sold that house. What do you mean? That's my mom's house. You know what I mean?
I also work with LLCs.
LLCs, I think you just have to be the majority.
LLCs just requires a partner or a member to sign it. So if you are a signatory person for that LLC, that's all that's needed. You don't have to have.
What about the
partner
warranty
sign it or
agreements?
anything like that.
What, just the one?
Just a member.
Yeah,
Just so they don't have to have a certain percentage?
No, well,
Well, it just, I guess.
I mean, they have to be over 50% to sign the warranty deed alone?
no,
Okay.
no, I mean, you don't have to have, it's not a percentage of ownership, you just have to be the one. Like, I can sign for our LLC,
Yeah.
and so can Shane.
Mhm.
The two of us can sign, but it's not required to have both.
Have we really thought that through?
Yes, we did, that's why it's being Shane.
Okay. I know. I don't get a company credit card, I feel.
No, shit, I don't get one.
Yeah.
They're mine, but I don't get one.
Let's go over, where did I miss the selling, this on the listing guide, I know. The
What?
selling commission of the selling firm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
you just skip the.
Mm.
Jenny was
You want to
here.
just start this one?
All this is required. You can put it up as an LLC. They don't need your spouse.
But if they're saying it's then it's just.
The only way that an LLC is involved in, or the spouse is involved in an LLC is if they are an owner.
Okay.
Go back up to the,
So, but otherwise.
the listing agreement, please.
It's not on my mortgage.
There's one thing that I missed on this, listing agreement,
I want to make sure there's anything.
and I want to go over this because it's important. When you put an expiration in here, you'll see where it says exchange within 180 days. That's what I put in 180 days. And I think that's a standard. You can put whatever you want in there. it can't be definitive. I mean, it's gotta be, you gotta put a number in there, okay? But what's that saying is, should you decide to cancel a listing, or the seller decides to cancel a listing, or it's going to expire, you have to serve that seller written buyers' names and addresses to reserve those buyers. And what's that saying is that should they come and buy that home within 180 days, you owe us the commission because we were the procuring cause of the sale. Okay?
So you have to,
You have
the
to,
agent has.
before it's canceled,
Okay.
you have to submit that to them, and of course, a copy on .loop run through. Now, some agents, it's tough to get their addresses. Like I call some agent from Joe Schmo Realty, and I'm like, hey, I know you showed this house twice. He has some interest in it. They're gonna cancel the listing. I'd like to get your buyer's name and their address so I can protect them. I ain't give you my buyer's name and address. What happens though is we cancel the listing, and then those people come and buy it straight from the seller owner, and then none of us are protected. So the way to sell it is I'm trying to protect both our commissions here. Okay? And the experienced agents have been around a little while, know the score. You're not giving them names and addresses and they're going knocking on their door. It's a protection for both of us. Okay? So you want to kind of keep track of who's come through your opens, who's, the agents that have shown it, and be able to put as many people on this list as you possibly can. Okay? Does that make sense?
And it is key prior to the cancellation
Yes.
or the expiration. If it's the day after, yeah.
And listen, there's a form in there that you put everything down and the seller signs it. We do not need the seller's signature for that to be valid.
What form is it?
It just, they might refuse to sign it. We just gotta show that we shared it with them.
What's it called?
Okay?
What form is it?
It says a reserve buyer, is it a protection of buyers?
Protection.
Protection, I think you're right.
Protected buyer.
Notice of protected buyers.
Okay.
So a lot of people might say, well, I'm not signing this. They don't really have to, as long as we've shown that we delivered it, okay? This does work. This does work. I've had to go through it once.
And the one time you don't do it is when somebody butt you nuts.
And it has before not doing it.
Yeah, it has.
Those people, come.
I do it on, if somebody's canceling or something like that. It's like, okay, why are they canceling? Well, they know somebody, who can buy the property or something like that. And so that's one of the things when you're canceling a listing. If somebody says, we're done at canceling, do withdrawn but not canceled, because it can't be listed after that with another agent until the withdrawn period's over.
Gotcha, that's good to know. It's good to know.
The other thing is I tell them, say, well, we had it on the market for 2 months, your situation's changed. I had it listed for 6 months. So what I can do as a favor to you is we'll put it on as withdrawn, not canceled. That way you won't have agents calling you for the next 4 months to try to list it.
Yeah, I've never held anybody into a listing contract, even though I never have. I think that's bad practice. You guys implement in your own business what you want to do, but I think it's bad form. If someone cancels a listing on you, 90% of the time it's a you problem. You need to look in the mirror and figure out what you could have done differently to change the outcome. Okay, and that's tough to do because we want to blame everybody else. We want to blame other circumstances. A lot of times you just look in the mirror and think, you know what, honestly, if I just was a little bit better at communicating, if I was a little bit better at doing this or that, maybe the outcome would have been different. You can't really guarantee the outcome that a home's going to sell, but you sure can give great communication and great service, okay, no matter what. So abstract location, I'm the best at this, right, Jenny? Always give it an abstract.
He's like, I had someone.
I do have these conversations with, when I'm getting ready to list a house. I let them know I really need 3 things from them. I need the key to the house, I need their abstract, and I need them to have the mortgage information. Okay, really, I'll try to prep them. Now, sometimes they don't always have the abstract location, and then I'll call the abstractors and try to track it down. I've gotten really good at, going from one breadcrumb to the next. So I'm gonna give you a little scenario. This just happened last week. Seller thought she knew who the abstract was. It wasn't what she thought it was. She started calling around before she told me she didn't know where it was. Finally, I call her and she's like, hey, I called these 2 places. It was listed at this attorney. I called the attorney, and the attorney's telling me they never had it, or they had it, but basically the receipt stopped with them. So, and they were trying to give my seller saying that it's not our problem and this and that. It is our problem. If the receipt stops with them, then they're the one paying for it. So when I call them up and say, hey, you know, we have a receipt here, yeah, we had it this and date. Do you know where it went from there? I said, no, we don't. I said, okay, we're gonna have it remade and we'll send you the bill. And I'm like, wait a second, how's that? The receipt stops with you. If you can't tell me where else it went from your office, you're responsible for it. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, they have it in their eyes. So, you know, sometimes it's better, it's a good service to know how to track these down for your sellers. Take some of that off of them. Don't let them do that on their own because they'll get the runaround.
Sometimes it tracks back to the seller too. You
So-
go up this big.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, you
They
did
just
have
don't
it.
know what they're
Yeah,
looking
you
You
got
did
it
not
in
pick it up.
section.
So the out-track location, if they have it, if you do get it, put it in the courier. The couriers know to get it into the back end. The back end gets it to Bill Blue or whoever we're using, and which we use Bill Blue, don't we? And then from there, everything's taken care of. And they actually, Jenny will put the abstract receipt into your loop. You'll see it.
Like in the service center in Chelsea, I mean, whoever.
Whoever. So everything's pretty much transparent here, right? I mean, with single family, acreage, townhome, we know how to put the county, the city, the zip code, the zoning's found on the assessors, copy and paste the legal description, school district, gross taxes, net taxes, listing agent. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? We don't need to go over that. I know this is one-on-one, but we don't go way one-on-one.
Parcel number.
Parcel number.
Yeah, that's.
Parcel number is extremely.
Listen,
Especially if it's not
listen.
anybody around here.
Parcel number is extremely important. That's the same thing as having the legal description. In fact, sometimes all you have is a parcel number to identify in the legal description. We don't have a hard
Let
address.
Jenny talk about
Well,
where it's at and
now-
what it means.
like the MLS allows us, there's like 7 different counties, like there are surrounding counties around here, allows us to pick a county and put the parcel number in or address. Sometimes it always doesn't come up by the address. The parcel number is, you know, and it'll auto-populate some information from the assessor, not everything, but some things. So, the parcel, just no matter what parcel number, I mean.
It's on the assessor's page in Polk
Yeah.
County. It's on the assessor's page. You always go to find the parcel number.
Yeah.
The one thing is with the Polk County is they have geo and then the parcel, there's a slash. You know, they put them together and there's a slash. The geo's the first 3 numbers, the parcel numbers is on the end, okay?
The thing about that is, especially in Polk County, if you put that number in, then your listing, there, it comes up in a hyperlink. When people are looking at your listing, it's a
1333
hyperlink. You click on the hyperlink and it goes
Crescent,
directly to
CRESTON.
the assessor. Why would you want people to have that ease of interaction on your property?
So you see how the district is in the first half there, or the first 3 there?
Okay.
And then the parcels, the 04269? That's the parcel number.
That's the one you want, that one right there.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the geo parcel.
Come on down. Come on down. See how the zoning is residential? It's R160. There are different types of residential zoning. There are different types of commercial zoning. There are different types of agricultural zoning. So whenever you can pick that up versus just residential, do that, okay? That make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Go back to the forms. Okay, come down, listing agent, 2 if need to be, owner's name,
Can we go back? Gross taxes, net taxes.
yes.
Must have them. It's a required field. I cannot make active without knowing that.
Good to know.
Does everybody know how to find gross and net?
No.
Go back to the assessor's page.
Yeah, go to the assessor's page.
Hit the tax treasure statement right here in the middle link. There you go. Go up here to the left, you hit the tax installment. There you go. This is just the first half of actually, this is the new assessment. So. if
Wait,
you-
go back and do that one more time, just so I
But
can.
that,
Sorry.
You have somewhere else you want to go, Lance?
Is that the gross or the?
that's the net right there. You need to have them both.
Okay, so you click on the treasurer's
Tax statement.
And you go up to, I think it's tax distribution. That's the
just a
same
couple down.
place,
There you
yeah,
go.
go right there,
Do it again.
tax distribution, okay. Now you want to see. the gross,
Gross and net.
it's gross and net. This one, I think you don't, is this a rental?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not getting that. And normally you would say gross and then this would be net.
So it'd be two different numbers.
Yeah, it'd be two different numbers.
Basically, the homestead credit.
About $200 because the homestead credit's off. But when, if rental property doesn't have that, of course, because it doesn't get a homestead exemption. But that's where you find gross and net is you go there, there's the gross, there's the net.
There you go. Look at that.
I was just going to the pay taxes, clicking on it, waiting for the next page and doubling it.
Yeah, no, you just go there and then it's real quick and easy to find.
And that's distribution.
Yeah, tax distribution is where you find the gross.
All right, go back to that. Go back to the big form.
Yeah, just call me.
Showing instructions. I think we're all using showing time now, right? The agents that put, don't use showing time, I want to put in the chokehold. Get with the times. Just put, please use showing time. Technology is a beautiful thing. And then how to show. All identified buyers. It should definitely be by appointment only, even if it's vacant. You can set your showing time up to automatically approve the showings. Okay, but it should be by appointment only. You should definitely know who's coming through your houses. Occupied, owner, tenant, vacant, unknown. God, I hope we know who's in there. Keys, lockbox, listing firm, non. Obviously, we want to use lockboxes. Do we have a seller's disclosure? Yes. Do we have any reserved items? Maybe, maybe not. Reserved buyers? Maybe, maybe not. This right here, we want to click that we do have permission to put a sign in the yard, right? Or at least notify the agent there's a sign in the yard to look for. Every now and then, someone doesn't want a sign in the yard. And go ahead and tell the agents, or in the agent remarks, no sign in the yard. Because you know how it is, you're looking for a house, you kind of half-ass look for the sign as you get close. So, come on down. You know, you got the style of home. Everybody knows the style of homes, right? The bedrooms, the levels they're on for a total. Everybody knows what a full bath, 3/4 bath, and a half bath is. A full bath has a tub, a 3/4 bath has a stand-up shower, and a half bath is just a toilet and sink, right?
Please mark which level.
And mark which level they're on. And this is important when people search. So your bill, is it an REO? Is it a foreclosure property? Yes or no? Proposed construction, new construction. Proposed means it's either being built or it's a vacant lot, right? New construction means it's actually up and viewable.
Okay, hey, Matt. So how do I fill that out if it's a split level?
How do I fill it out?
The levels, I have a 4-level split. How do I know what floor the bedrooms and bathrooms?
Your bedrooms will be above grade, on the second floor. And then on the lower level, on a split floor, you might have a bedroom or two in the lower level if it's below grade. That's how I would.
But how about a split level? I
got four.
Then I have
Already
4
walk
levels.
up.
Well, yeah, it's still grade, and I would still go by grade. Like where the basements are in the basement, it's gonna be.
So I have
the lower
2
level.
floors above grade.
3.
Yes, you do, you have 2,
Two.
not always.
Okay.
The third one,
Is it-
the third one is in
It's a daylight.
Is in a daylight.
Yeah, it's usually daylight.
You're in the basement. You're below grade.
You're gonna live to one.
The problem with split foyers and split levels a lot is the square footage. Where to put main level versus finish in the basement. If you have a split foyer and those daylight windows are there and they're just right at grade, that's the basement. Just like any other basement that would have daylight windows or a walkout even. It's the basement. That's why it gets a little tricky. Because we haven't seen a 4-level split in a while. They used to be big in the 90s. I've actually even seen a 5-level split.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps going and going and going. But those are in the basement. That's the way I've always done them. That's the way I see them most of the time.
Well, you can either do 3-2-1 in basement on a split level.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can do that, or you can do the 2-1 in the lower level. Especially if there's no finish in that basement level. But understand this, when you're filling that out, square footage is according to the assessor, not you.
Yeah, you'll get fined.
Whatever it says on
City
the
Health
assessor.
will send you, say you're not in compliance a couple of times, and then that's not someone you want to annoy consistently.
Automatically, your
So
listings,
1835.
your listings, when they go into the
So,
system.
okay, so
are
this is, I'm sorry, this is a good example of the assessor's
Okay,
There's 1,835 square feet there, but I actually finished the attic. This is my house I own, so it's under 300 up there. If I had to list this today, I either one, have to get the city up there and say, hey, look at all this stuff I did.
it
with
shows
that
attic floor.
Or two,
But it's not included in
It's
the total
finished now.
square.
It's not included in the living area? No. Okay.
but it does have the
It has
square
the
footage
floor.
there. So I would have to go with this if I was listing it, even though I know there's an extra 294 square
Well, you
feet.
can put an agent.
You put in the agent
And
reminder.
you can always put it in remarks, but what I was saying is that every listing that is turned in is automatically checked against this information.
And I'm assuming
Right.
bedrooms as well,
Huh?
bedrooms as well.
Yes. So it's checked against the assessor, and if it's wrong, you're gonna get a note. If you don't respond to the note, you're gonna get a fine.
And I
24
actually
hours, right?
had the assessor
24
come
hours
out
to respond.
and remeasure a listing I was taking,
Oh,
and they were wrong. They were wrong by 200 square feet
I've had it
So,
done like
on a
3 times.
ranch,
Who was wrong?
the assessors.
Oh, yeah.
So they changed it right away. Now I can go in and change my listing.
So that's okay.
On the taxes, like the tax year, how do you know if it's like, I know that it's last year, but when does it change from 2017 to 2018?
Well, we're always in the rears a year, so.
So then would you go by the bill creation date, because that's 2017? But the top says
She's
2018,
asking whether, I always put the latest and greatest assessment of taxes on there, but
just like in the last year.
as Barry has one time pointed, I was like, hey, now you're putting your new assessment, not what they are currently. I think that's what she's asking about the tax year.
So if you go back to like the tax distribution thing, it
Yes.
says 2018, but obviously we're not paying our 2018 taxes.
But it's payable in 2018.
This is payable.
So you're
This
paying
is
it in
payable.
2018, but it's for 2017.
Yeah.
Right, so then you would just, like, I know,
She's
but,
wondering if she could put the taxes.
well, like, the bill creation date is July,
Yeah, it does
so then it's
payable
2017.
17, 18.
so then on your listing data, you put year due 2017?
18.
17 and 18. The year due is always 2 years. September is first half, March is second half.
It's 2018, for what you're asking, I think.
Trust me,
I think there's a-
that's
We
on your
always-
taxes. They're assessed in January, they are rolled
Well,
out
I-
onto the books the end of
That's one
August,
thing I
and
never
payable
thought
the
of, yeah, sure.
following September.
No.
It's not being-
Jenny, that must not be something we require those to put the tax year in there, huh?
I mean, no, it's
Okay.
not required on the MLS. No,
Okay.
it's not
Okay.
required.
Go back to that sheet.
The tax, I mean, the actual amounts are, but the year's not.
Okay,
So we have living area square footage, basement square footage, the basement as a whole, and then the finished basement. Lot square footage is going to be, width times, or, width and the length. Sometimes they're irregular shaped and you're not gonna be able to get that. So, and then we have the lot size, which is the total square footage of the lot. And then I know the assessor's pages are pretty good at breaking down, is it 0.25 acres, 0.1 acres, 0.68 acres. So all the stuff that's in the assessor's page, we wanna put in here. You can put whether it's regular, irregular, corner, or pie. Pie in the corner are pretty new, actually. Just used to be
Yeah, they're
regular,
just getting
irregular.
at it.
Is that the cul-de-sac probably? Pie?
Yeah,
Cul-de-sac.
High is called.
Right. And then the terms that are available, this is another reason why when we go to this field trip in the next 2 weeks, be able to identify things FHA and VA are looking for, and knowing whether or not, whether to put that on there.
Oh,
Okay.
right, that's required. We gotta know what terms to put on the MLS.
Yeah, well, we'll always say cash, right? And then conventional, most homes will private. So those two will be your almost automatic. Your FHA and your VA, or you're gonna wanna look at the house and determine whether or not the seller's willing to put handrails on, and, one window's gotta open up in each room. We'll go over that in a few weeks. Contract sales are a whole different animal, of course. FMHA is a certain defined area of some of the rural areas. I think, and actually Norwalk, there was an FMHA.
Yeah.
The NFC is also a defined area. You can find those, they move every year. So, you can find those online.
Is that where they give you money back to do things or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then assumption,
Yeah.
now, hey, listen, I'll touch on this because as interest rates rise, you might see some of this. I know back in the early 80s, but actually before he even got into real estate was, I asked Kim Park, I said, Ken, I mean, when there was 16, 18% interest rates, how the hell did you ever sell a house?
Yeah.
assumptions. They would
Yeah,
assume.
they were called stack loans.
So they would assume that all FHA loans are assumable. Okay, anyone that's got an FHA loan on it's assumable loan. VAs are too, as long as you have another VA person buying it. So they can imagine.
They have to qualify.
They have to qualify, of course. So imagine 5 years from now, interest rates are 7.8%. And that person you just sold a home to 2 years ago has a 3.5% interest rate locked. And you sold it to him for 120, now it's worth 160. I can assume his $120,000 loan and they get a second loan for the high interest rate and cash him out. But isn't it better to have that first loan at 3.5 than the whole kit and caboodle at 7.8? So you may see that come back around again if the interest rates get really high and you have all these low locks for the last 4 years.
Yeah, and that's part of why I like FHA.
Yeah.
Most of them lenders will like to do assumptions.
If you qualify.
As long as qualify, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I would think they'd want to redo the contract and look at the higher
Well,
interest rate.
they certainly would, but you know, it's assumable. They can't say, oh, no, we don't want to do that.
Gotcha.
Right.
It's assumable.
Right.
Yeah, I just figured they would stop that
No, these
somehow.
are government loans, they can't play.
Gotcha.
So, and of course, the exterior, that's pretty self-explanatory, brick, frame, vinyl, sand, cement, metal, stone. See remarks, that has to be interesting. Street features, concrete, I think all that's pretty much self-explanatory. Same thing with sewer, water, it's not, please stop me. Driveway, these things are all listed in the assessor's page too, for the most part. What type of heat system are we on? Is it natural gas, propane, foundation, what types of foundation? Every now and then you're gonna see wood, very, very rarely, but you'll see it every now and then. Air conditioning.
How weird is that?
On trees.
I can imagine.
My dad has a wood foundation.
Really?
Yeah, they're actually really well insulated foundations. If you read up on them, they're actually they're up north in Minnesota, all over the place. And nothing's a better insulator than wood. So when people worry about it rotting out on you, it's treated and stuff. You dig it down, it looks like it was just put in. But we won't spend too much time on that. Interior features, what's staying with the property, go through this. Have we talked to them about all drapes and curtains? We got hardwood floors, vinyl, wet bars, smoke detectors. We have first floor laundry. Remember, some people are looking for 1-floor living, so it's important to note that, I think. And then everything else is pretty much explanatory. Put the fireplace in there. Directions. I know we all have GPS, but put good directions in, especially if you have a new area that streets might not pick up on GPS yet. Spend a little time.
It is required to.
Well, I know, but the requirements are probably pretty nil, because I see, like if you say Hickman to Owl Street, like this is happening, or Douglas to Owl Street, let me know Hickman West 156th Street to Owl Street. Hickman runs how many miles?
Yeah.
I know it's Urbandale, so I zone in there, but if I know where to drop in on Douglas or Hickman, that helps me. So, do that.
I love the ones that say, Douglas to such and turn right, and you're like, is that?
Better than just the average.
This is
West
important for
or-
you.
Yeah.
AT changes every day.
Yeah.
We don't know anything like we know anything. You have a grid there on First Street and you have AT, blah, blah, blah. What quadrant am I in? You know what I mean? Give me some help.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than being with a buyer and you looking like this every 2 minutes. Turning around. You know how it is, like, hey,
that's the GPS.
I get it so often
Sometimes it's on.
that I would tell my buyer, because before GPS, I'd be like, you see this, that means we're turning around. And at nighttime, when it gets dark at 5 o'clock and you can't pick up addresses, it really does help. That's where the sign kind of comes in handy too.
Yeah,
by
the
the way.
second time you do that means we're stopping for drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems to happen to me anything all the time, just because there's so many new areas.
Yeah.
See, when I was in Grimes, it was a pain in the butt. We actually stopped at the Casey's and the pizza delivery girl took us to the address,
Yeah.
but we could not find it.
It's on the north side of James,
Yeah.
not on the south
Could
side.
not
Or
figure it out.
GPS takes you to the south side.
Yeah.
I looked at the same damn house.
HOA.
We need to know your HOA people, okay? There's actually 2 forms associated with outside of this that we need to know, okay? Our TC needs to put in there, and then your ACR needs to put in there, and then your TC will call to make sure your seller is current on dues, okay? Now, there's also special assessments sometimes that are levied against these people. And you're also identifying in those forms who's responsible for that. For instance, I'm paying my dues $200 a month, every month, everything's great. They're gonna replace this big section of the parking lot, and I'm gonna owe $5,000 on top of those dues for the next year. Those will come up. So we need to have those conversations. Don't have them at the closing table. Don't have them when they're putting together figures. Have them up front with them when you're listing a home. They receive notices. So to say they don't know, I would, you'd have to be an idiot.
Here's that part I was talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what that is.
If you are charging less, if you bring an offer to your seller, you have to disclose that there. Have to.
Let me ask you this. I'm an outside broker. You're a listing agent with a variable rate commission. I see it as a variable rate commission on the listing, and you tell me, hey, I'm bringing a buyer too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to tell me what that variable rate is?
No.
Okay.
All I have to tell you is what I'm
That
paying
there is a
you,
variable rate. Okay.
but they need to know that,
That
you know
there is a
what?
variable, okay.
I'm taking 1% because I know they're gonna buy a $1 million house or something, like that.
So
They need to know that.
Okay.
Termite, obviously, just fill out how you want them to contact you. They usually call you. They haven't got them to use showing time yet. I think that would be big if we could. And the services that are given as part of the HOA, these are important to people. Find out, are they paying water? Obviously, you see a lot of trash and yard maintenance and snow removal with them, but what else are they covering? Okay?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. I want to know.
That's selling commission to selling firm.
It's what you're gonna get the other side.
What you're gonna get the other side.
Got it.
And
So-
it's left blank and
Am
I,
I,
oh,
sorry.
sorry, no, go ahead.
So let's say I do a 6.5% listing, I'm gonna completely market, put a ton of bunch of money, can I give myself 3.5?
Yes.
Obviously, as long as the sellers are aware.
Oh, of course, yeah. No, I did that a lot when we were doing pre-inspections and all those kinds of things. I did 6.5 and I kept 3.5 and offered 3. And that paid for inspections and marketing and some of those upfront things that it was a way to get some of that back.
I like it. I like it.
But please make sure.
It is
Let me understand that better. What do you mean by variable rate? Let me understand that better. What are you talking?
So a variable rate,
Yeah.
an example of variable rate commission is I'm gonna list your house for 6%. I think I did this for you.
Oh, yeah.
I think I
there you
did
go.
this for you.
Yeah.
We're gonna list your home for 6%, right? When I brought the buyer, we reduced it.
That's all. That's
Probably
all.
not low enough for you, but.
Well, hell no. That's a side point.
But we reduced it to make, so I told you that up front, saying, hey.
So you just hit yes, that it might be a variable rate. You might end up with a variable rate.
Yeah, and
situation.
if you bring the buyer, you're going to give them a benefit. And it's just because we offer cooperation to other agents, they need to know what's going on.
They need to know if I'm bringing an offer and you're writing your own offer on your own listing. I need to know that my buyer can compete, and there's a variable rate in there,
It says he
that might
be
affect
able
what my buyer offers.
to.
Got it.
That's what you understand. Got it.
That makes sense, yep.
Didn't make sense before, guys. Now it does. Thank you.
Can I ask another question about that?
Sure.
So if we're doing, say I want to give this seller a discount, so I'm gonna take 2% and we're gonna offer 3%. Do I have to check that box for
No.
that situation?
No, because
No,
you're
because
not,
we're
it's
listing
if
everything.
your rate is variable.
Okay,
It
Okay.
changes
Okay.
on the condition
got it.
of the sale.
The buyer's agent's rate is agreed to and you tell them what it is.
Got
It's
So-
if
So
your
he gets his
rate,
3 regardless.
Okay.
Mine's gonna change.
Whatever you put in there is what they're gonna get.
Yeah.
And then whatever your listing agreement says will be the sum of the total. You list it for 5%, and then you would put 3% in here in the
Yeah.
scenario that you gave.
If
Okay.
you have a 24-hour sale, you need to make sure you have that commission conversation up front.
Yes,
Sarah got burned out.
yes.
Yep.
What do you mean?
It was a
Here-
24-hour sale.
No, let me explain, because I know what happened. You're talking about the one on Emma or Elder Lane. Elder Lane. She got wind of a property because she knew the neighbor was coming on the market. She went in there as the point that they were listing the home. She sold the home before the listing was even live. Then when all of a sudden the deals were put together, the listing agent came back and said, oh, by the way, we're only giving you this, 1.5%. Well, wait a second. You didn't tell me that. Well, she had nothing signed with them.
Yeah. There was
So
no
you
listing.
need to have
Yeah.
something to them that what she's warning you against is that until that listing is signed and that is put in there, you have no commission.
Gotcha.
I mean, in a lot of ways, of course, she was mad and rightfully mad because this company's a traditional company. They don't list for anything less than 6% or 7%. They just don't typically. So when she didn't get her half, of course, she feels slighted, and she should have. But there's nothing we could do as brokers to help her, defend her. So you have forms that you can present to them and say, hey, I'll show this, but this is what I expect. I need the seller to sign it, and your broker to sign it.
At that point, you might even present an unrepresented.
So.
Are they represented? Not without that agency and listing.
Right.
Yeah, true.
So,
Energy efficiency ratings. A lot of builders go through great lengths to make sure their homes are energy efficient, and they get rebates for it actually, right? They don't do it out of the kindness of their hearts.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you have that information, you can certainly put in there. I think people are more energy efficient, conscious of their homes.
if you do check that, you have to have proof.
Okay.
And you have to know those boxes, because once you check one of those boxes, it requires you to put the information in.
Well, you should have, if you did, you should have that data sheet anyway, which will give you all that information.
Yeah, so if you've got a builder that, did Energy Star, which was the easiest of the group.
Yeah.
If you check that, it requires that your label certified and all that.
Right.
And it has to all be in there.
So
Otherwise, you don't-
what does that mean if it is more?
Something?
The energy rating, you have to have 2 by 6 construction, the whole warrant, certain kind of insulation, 92% plus efficiency furnace and air. There's certain requirements the home has to meet to earn that rating. Typically, builders are bringing it up to this because they get like $3,000 back on the efficiency of the home. They get a rebate check. Marketing remarks are your chance to obviously sell the home. I think photos have replaced a lot of that, but there's still some things that you can put in here that photos won't. Sell lifestyle here, guys. Don't tell me 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom ranch with, great granite kitchen. I got all that from the photos. Tell me it backs to a bike trail and I got groceries or easy commute to Des Moines or sell me the lifestyle of the home here. Okay?
Yeah.
Think lifestyle. Who's my A buyer? Is it 60 plus? Is it a young family? Who's my buyer and how am I going to sell the lifestyle of the home?
And a question I get a lot, how many characters? 1,000 characters for marketing remarks is all that's allowed.
You get over that, you're long-winded.
Basically.
Yes,
You got it.
basically.
I'm long-winded.
Yeah, me too.
And then agent remarks might be,
No, it's 1,000 too. It's 1,000 in agent remarks too.
no, I'm just trying to think of what you might put in there.
Oh, like
Subject and
reserved
HOC.
reserved items,
Reserved
deliverable
items.
voice, electronic purchase money.
Yeah.
Which we're automatically putting in for them.
Yes, we're on there.
Okay. What else we have?
Sales worksheet, just touch on this. That's just
You wanna do any of the, like-
I think we're gonna get Jenny up here to speak for a few minutes. It is important on the sales worksheet, guys, to fill out those information, to fill it out correctly. The reason why we need the social security is because it's listed on the declaration of value page that the seller signs at closing.
You
Can
wanna
they get it
do-
at closing
No.
though with the seller?
No, it's,
You need it before?
The seller social is for the payouts, and also we have to provide it to the settlement agent for 1099.
1099.
We do not need buyer socials anymore.
Okay.
What if the agent doesn't?
Do they just need the last 4 or do they need the last 5 or do they need the whole thing?
Okay.
Okay.
Just passed my test 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
If they don't get it
oh, on my.
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, hey, that's only for our listings, right?
Yeah,
Matt,
so
yeah.
So,
I'm
the.
gonna have Jenny come up here and do your thing.
Just
Or
want me
Jamie.
to
Just a couple
explain
things
Come
to
up
point
here,
out.
come on. Everybody get a little warm and fly.
Yeah, I just,
Want
I
me to do
just.
this?
Partly because I have to go,
Oh, gotcha.
and partly because you're better at it, because I always get flagged for misinformation, so why the hell would I?
Yeah, why would you do
Why would I
that?
be here?
Well, if you don't know me, I'm Jenny Capital and I'm
Okay, just
ACR. So I'm we have 2 other ACRs, Kim and Nicole, so you might have those gals. But anyway,
So
they're
you've been
kind
here
of,
12 years.
yes. We're kind of your front end girls to go through all your paperwork and make sure that you're got everything that you need and signed and all that good stuff.
Sorry about that.
But on the sales worksheet, I'm just gonna, and we're talking listing site sale here. So we need everything. I'll just tell you that. And we actually do need a sales worksheet period when you submit a sale, otherwise we won't process. We have to have the sales worksheet, because this is our go-to for everything that we have to move it forward. So, I mean, really kind of street, obviously street, I mean, all that good stuff. But here we get down. So for buyer, we want obviously their names. We have to have some information. Please don't leave it blank. Please put their names. And if you can get a phone or an email, it's not that we're going to call them. No one's going to call the buyer on the other side. It's simply for the declaration of value. It must be on there. A phone or an email must be on the declaration of value for it to be filed. So we just like to have it up front. So when the deed package is ordered, it's there for the attorney. They can just add it to it. It's, nice in there. And it's, if not, then the settlement agent has to add it at the end and can get missed and blah, blah, blah. So we just like to have that.
Marital status is nice too.
Yeah, well, yes, marital status too.
And they're either single or they're married in Iowa. If you're widowed, you're single. If
Yes.
you're divorced, you're single.
Yes. So then for seller, obviously this is your seller. So I mean, all this information you should have or can get. I mean, it's so everything here where it says address for the seller on the listing, please make it their forwarding address. I know sometimes when the sale is submitted, you don't know, put TBD. Please try to get that forward. If you leave it blank, I'm asking for it. So I mean, just try to put that in there, and then contact information, phone or email, or both. And marital status. So yeah, if it was one of those where it was, I mean, the spouse is on title, we didn't know that listing, but you have married here, we're going to need to know the spouse's information as well. And we just went over the social security number. Yes, we must have the social security number for the seller on a listing. Can
I put you on the spot? Yeah. Can you talk just briefly about what you send out to sellers when you get this information and comes in? Don't you send out an email?
I don't as the ACR, but then it goes off to the Alexa would be sending that out.
Alexa does.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted everybody to know that when you put that, we need the email because that's how they communicate. That back end is able to. So I guess you can talk briefly about it.
Yeah. So we send out an introduction email to them in the beginning, just letting them know that there's this TC that's going to be contacting them, that we're working with you as the agent. And then the TC is going to use that as well to communicate with them on to set up a time for them to come in and sign the docs. If they have any questions about judgments or anything like that, kind of helps so you guys can be out selling and the TC can communicate with your seller. So.
Okay, so understand, because I hear people that they're kind of like, I don't know what you're talking. There are partners. They're part of our team. So tell your people when you're listing a house, hey, I got some team members. And that's what they specialize in. They'll be contacting you as this process goes because they've got it down pat. That's what they do. So I have specialists for you. Okay? That way.
That's your $225 fee to get all that specialist. You've seen.
Well, sure. I mean, they get paid for all of that. Yeah. But you need to make sure that you tell people this is, they're like, well, I got this email from some person and they said they know you and all this stuff, and they think, with the internet the way it is now, like, okay, what kind of scam is this going on? Yeah. So just tell them, expect that, part of my team is going to call you. They're the ones that do all the back end work for us.
And you also get CCs.
Yes.
And all that. So you're in.
Yeah, if you want them, you'll get all that stuff. So. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so we're down to purchase price and yes, a lot of the, we do check the purchase. It's not, I mean, when I'm processing something, I got this sub and the purchase agreement at the same time. So yes, I mean, I am double checking, but please, just before you submit, make sure just that's all correct. Acceptance date, closing date, earnest money, possession date you can put in. I don't really put that into our system, but I do need the closing date for sure. And then HOA and septic, know that if there's an HOA, well, both HOA or septic, there's an additional addendum that needs to be submitted along as well. And going back real quick, with that septic on the listing, make sure if there is a septic, when you're listing that, you are marking on the MLS that there is a septic, don't leave that blank. And then the home warranty section, where HMS is our preferred company. So please make sure that you're marking that. And if it is going to be a different company, please put that in other. Know that we only order with HMS. So if it is another company like HSA, AHS, that's fine. They can be ordered. It's just going to be up to you to order it, or the buyer's agent to do that, and then you will need to provide us the invoice.
Speak to the requirement now of what you have to have for home warranty.
Yeah, well, on a listing, if it's HMS and we're going to order it, I must have the HMS warranty application filled out and signed. So yeah, as I pull that up. So all this information needs filled out, and they need to mark acceptance of coverage, and then sign it. That needs to be signed. And then on the right-hand side will be the coverage, and you just mark what they're getting and add it all up and all that good stuff.
And only one of them needs to sign, right?
Yeah, that's. Mm-hmm.
And if they choose not to have to have waiver
coverage
and sign.
Question.
Yeah.
If I have a buyer that we're doing the basic, the 489, but I can state to them like, hey, if you want to do the 589, you can pay the extra.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just write that on the side, like that the seller's paying for 489, but the buyer's covering the extra.
Yeah.
Well, it'd show in the worksheet, it would show the one here, you would put what's.
Yeah. Just let us know how that's working. Okay. Yeah.
And you can see warranty funded by seller buyer. Are those radio buttons, or are they?
Which one?
Check marks.
These?
Where it's
Right
warranty
hand
funded.
side.
Yeah, there.
Seller
At the bottom.
Those are just
Are
buttons.
those radio or
They're not
checks?
radio, they're just
Okay, so you could check both. Okay.
Okay.
Or other if you're paying, I've done that.
Difference, but then put both.
Isn't there a different one for?
Yeah.
There's a different form for waiver, right?
There is a different form if you don't do this one.
Okay.
We
It has to be either or.
We had a huge discussion on this, so if you want to expound on that a little bit.
There's a general one in there as well, that can be used for any company, and we are gonna be working on getting every single company's brochure in here, so that you have access to all of those. And then we've talked about as well, I missed this meeting, but adjusting our purchase agreement, to add this in there to make it a little easier on you guys, so you're not having all this.
Yeah, so the issue came up, and it's like, why do we have to have this signed? If they're not getting it, blah, blah, blah. Well, the issue is that we and you would like to stay out of court. And that's exactly what happened. Is we had one of these scenarios. A waiver wasn't signed. They, quote, weren't offered it as far as they were concerned, that we could not show any different, and so we paid a pretty good chunk of money because of that. So
What if it's
yes.
a new construction and you have a builder warranty? Do you still have to?
Yes.
Yes, because, can you scroll up, Becca?
But is it this where you sign off on, or, because I just did it recently, a waiver of it, there's a different form for a waiver.
You can do
So-
that.
Either way.
Yeah,
Either or, you don't need them both.
So this has the option for the new construction home years 2 through 4. So even if it is new construction, then they should sign off waiving if they don't want the additional, just to show that you did offer.
And really, this is especially important on buyer side sales. I mean, this is where we're, now on listing side sales, obviously, that's been kind of negotiated and the buyer's asking for it. That's why, so we're not gonna, if it is with HMS and you want us to order, that's fine, and just have this all filled out and the seller will sign or whatever. But if it's another company, that's why we just need the invoice. Because we have to have the invoice. Does that make sense?
And we're working on the new construction part so
Yeah.
that it's not as cumbersome. So that inside the purchase agreements, it'll be there. So that we can try to get away from the new construction having to have that information as well. So we're working on that. Okay, all right. Next.
All right, okay. So home warranty, seller paid closing costs, just, that's off of the purchase agreement. Okay, termite inspection schedule instructions. Your ACR will order your termite for you. We order through Springer, Pest Solutions, or Home Solutions.
Whatever they're called.
Whatever they're called, Springer, just Springer. So here for instructions, please put that how Springer should access the house. That's what we put in our order. So if it's to call you, if it's vacant, they can just use the lockbox. Just put that. If that's left blank, we'll go off of what the showing instructions are off the MLS. So just know that. So more than likely you're going to get called for the inspection. Also too, again, kind of if this kind of happens every so often, but if they don't want to use Springer, that's fine. It's just going to be up to you or the seller to order it and then provide us the invoice. And then, mark that there on the sales worksheet if that's the case. 99% of the time we're using Springer, but if there's, in the case like that, if they already have, somebody that, comes out and checks it or whatever, just let us know that. But okay, commission. So this would be where you're going to put the gross commission, so the total percentage, and then
This is where you do your thing, Ellen. Because you're getting 3.5 and paying 3.
yes.
Yep.
So
That's where
maybe,
you do
yeah.
it.
We'll do the math for you. You can put the math, so this would be the percentage over here, and on that side's actual amounts. As long as you get the percentage in there, we'll do the math for you.
If we're on the buying side though, do you just
put the buying.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Well,
that's just
you
the
know what
buyer's
you're-
agreement. Because a lot of times you don't know. You don't know. We don't worry about that. So, but on listening side, yeah, we have to know everything. And then if there's a team split, so if you're splitting this, please put that in that box how it's being split out. You can make it simple, 60-40, whatever. Just say who's getting what. And then right below, there is the referral. So if there's going to be a referral and you mark yes, I have to have a referral form go along with that. So if that says yes, I have no referral form, I'm going to ask you and ask for that and how much, everything needs to be filled out. Okay, so type of financing, what was agreed on in the purchase agreement. So the next two, request the service center to do a mortgage closing or request for
Is that the
cash.
425 you were thinking?
That's what we're,
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what you're gonna need to mark if you want the real estate service center to close, if it's a lender, if it's a mortgage, or if it's cash. So we see this and then we know that the service center's closing, and then we let them know. And you will also need to include the buyer settlement services agreement. if you mark yes for either of those boxes.
Just so you know, if you're getting a small lender or out of town lender, something like that, offer that service. A lot of times they'll go, oh yeah, that'd be great. And when it's in-house like that, man, it's a hands-off, smooth deal. You're just like, they're at it. Just tell me when it's time.
Well, and Des Moines is kind of rare in the fact that the lender always just chooses their settlement agent and does their thing. A lot of outer areas leave it up to the agent. So we'll ask them and they'll say, well, I don't know, that it's up to the agent. We are happy to do those, so.
They do a great job.
Lender information, please give me all the, yes, we have a lot of the lenders in this area's contact and everything, but the changes, sometimes that lender has changed companies and we don't know that, so please be filling all that lender information out, so we know for sure. Buyer, seller attorney, so seller attorney, on a listing site sale, we'll use Abendroth and Russell Barnett, but if the seller has an attorney that they specifically want to use, please put that there and we'll make a note of that, or you can note it too that, to use them. This would be for the deed package, and affidavits and that kind of stuff. Buyer attorney, so let's say this is cash and you're on the listing side, there's another, I really is on the buying or something and it's cash. We need to know who is going to close that for that. So, please put that attorney, or if if it's Midland Escrow that's closing or something like that, still put it there. We need to know that. Selling agent, so on the other side, if there is a co-agent, and then this would be you for listing side, co-agent, and then notes. Use this box for any notes you want us to know. Your ACR, TC, we'll make notes of it. So use it up if you need, you need us. There's specific, if there's something, I don't know.
Might need to know.
Yeah.
Sellers
really,
engaged,
yes.
will be married by closing.
Or they're going through a divorce, it could be,
Or
just.
there's a change later, you can put.
Yes, yes,
Yep.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, really your box for any, that you feel that something that we should know, so.
The more that you fill this out, the better they can serve
Yeah.
you and do the back end operation, because they have one well of information and that's it. And so you can't assume that somebody's gonna know something, but if you put it there, then everybody in that back end, whether it's the mortgage closing, if it's the processing, if it's your TC, everybody knows that, and it's like, boom, there it is.
Yeah.
They don't have to call you, and they don't have to bother you, and then messages back and forth, or emails, or all that. And if you want communication, the best way is through chat, because the people that you're trying to chat are typically working at their desk. And so you can chat them and they can go, oh yeah. And then they answer your question and they go on. Leaving an email, calling, leaving a message, that stuff is cumbersome and delays their response to you.
Can I make a note?
Yes.
I'm going back to the listing here real quick. Your ACR, when they enter your listing, and it's all said and done and everything's processed, everything's looked at, you'll get an email that says listing report, it's listing report. You'll get the same thing for a sale too, but for listing, I wanted to make a note. We will attach a copy of the agent detail report that we pulled from the MLS to that email. Please go over it and make sure that everything's correct and right, and especially the specifics like commission, everything that's pertinent, that we've gotten everything correct. We're human and can miss things and that kind of thing. But so just make sure, you've looked over real quick. If there's something that is wrong, let us know. We'll fix it right away. That's all. Yeah.
That's part of the service to your client, is to make sure that it's being out there, it's being presented. Yet it's not often that there's mistakes made, but there are. I'm certainly never you, but, you know.
So is this something, some agents do it where they give you their, sales worksheet? You know, like they'll offer up, you know, the information, you know, it's a lot of older agents.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
the only thing I'll do is that I will erase the social security number. And
Okay,
then I'll pass that on to the buyer's agent, so they have all that information.
so
Well, I'll
it
do
is
that.
okay to share this
Yeah,
information with
Yeah,
the
as long as you
agent?
don't have that, you know,
Social security.
the contact stuff, I mean, I'm assuming the other agent
Because
isn't
they gotta
gonna
fill out
give that
some
to their buyers and have them call. But, get rid of the social security number and then you can send it to them.
Okay.
Okay. So, and there's a trick to that, but I won't go through that.
It just helps.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so 2 things in closing. We have 2 more sessions of Agent 101. The next one is in 2 weeks, so the 5th, I believe, right? March 5th. And that will be the one that Matt was talking about where we're gonna be off-site. So look for some information. We'll hopefully have it all lined up and figured out a couple days before. We'll try and meet at a parking lot somewhere near there so we can pile in cars and not have like 20 cars lining a street. And so we're gonna get all those details figured out, so be on the lookout for that.
Where am I looking for that information?
It will come in an email.
Okay.
We'll send out an email. And then 2 weeks after that, the last session will be the service center and the real estate service center going into more detail about closings and how all that process works. So bring your questions, they'll be here for that. I know we'll have someone, Megan from the service center or one of them from there. And then lastly, is everybody going to the party Friday night? Has RSVP?
Friday
Big
night,
party?
it's a fun time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
We're buying dinner and drinks.
Is that your Lord's?
Drinks on Lance all night.
Huh?
Drinks on Lance all night.
Yeah, it-
Oh.
literally.
Basically.
Thank
you, guys.
It's totally true. There's